Greetings and welcome to the garden, but also the lab. I want to work on another build here, and I want to work on another one of my TV projects, but what I really want to try is painting it to see how well that's going to work. So I've got the big one here, and I got a box to try and paint it in. And I'm going to wait for the wind to die down just a little bit. I have a bad condition for this, but I'm going to see what I can do in terms of painting this. And then we'll go inside and work on the circuit board that's going to go with this, which I'll show you momentarily. And we'll come back and see how well this came out. Back in the lab, we've got a few things out here. This is the circuit board that's going to go in there, and this is a full 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Letter size in the U.S. for all of the international viewers. This is a mock-up of this circuit board, and I used it. I'll actually, when I put all this up on my website, I think I'm going to put this up too, just so it's easy to kind of come up with the designs, and all I did was just some basic coloring in. So I've got yellow here, I've got orange here, I've got red around that, and then I got a couple of pinks up in the corners. And if you haven't figured it out, it's a sunset. But I went through my LEDs, and okay, I got plenty of yellow, but that's the one I need the least of. And as far as orange, unfortunately, all I have for orange is some surface melt. And then for red, I've got a whole bunch of little things of red, so I'll probably just work my way through that. I thought maybe I'd have some orange here in my 3mm, but I don't have the 17 that I'm going to need for this. So I think I'm actually going to go to surface mount. That leaves all the resistors on the sides, and for that, I think what I'm going to try to do is use my 5.1Ks, which I have a larger amount of. That's kind of where my plan is going. Oh, and I need to show you what's happened with the painted frame. And here it is. I got to handle it carefully because it's got to cure for 24 hours. But that's how it came out. I'm actually quite pleased with it. The only thing is, if I grab a flashlight, part of the reason why I was painting it was because this one here that I built recently was done in the same white material, but it was glowing, and I didn't want it to glow too much, especially for this particular one. So I decided to get some spray paint, as you saw, and you can see it's still kind of shining through. So that's where we are on this. I'm going to let this cure while I work on building this circuit board. So I think the first order of business is to try to put these resistors on the edges here, and then we'll get a few of the LEDs in just to make sure it's working, along with the power connector. So let me hit the resistors first. But it's looking like I got all of these resistors on, and the trick to doing that, as crazy as it was for me, was using the tweezers, using the itty-bitty little resistors. These are 0805 components here. In fact, actually, this very first one, I said, oh, wait a minute, I got this whole package of 5.1K, and I realized they're 1206s, not 0805s, which for the uninitiated is a lot bigger. It's still very tiny, but it's a lot bigger in that tiny scale. And it also turns out that the 0805 LEDs fit perfectly into a 5mm LED footprint. So what I did was I put one blob of solder on one connection of the two, and then I was able to use the tweezers to kind of push it into that while I heated up that connection. That got it locked in. Then I was able to put a little bit of flux on there and be able to add another connection and be able to kind of move it around with the soldering iron. It was a little tricky. It's just going to take practice. And if you're trying to do something like this, it'll take some practice. I may release a version of this circuit board that involves regular through-hole resistors, but the problem is the limited amount of space that I have around the circuit board to put those resistors. So I'll try to figure that out at some point when I release all of these designs for other people to be able to try and replicate what I'm doing here. I think what I'm going to do, because I only need 5 of them, I still want to use, some of these are reclaimed LEDs that I put in one project and then decided I didn't really need that many yellow LEDs, or I picked a different LED, a different color. So that should be, that's 4 of them. The tricky part with these is that the leads are already cut. So I've got to double check that these are actually functional, which they should be, before I put them on now. See, that one's lighting up with a battery, so that's good. I got 5 of them in there. I got power set up here, and my janky little plug. Let's see together whether this works. There we go. Oops, looks like we're missing a couple of... Oh, okay, yeah. I'm missing 4 of the orange LEDs, but that's because, again, there's only 2 out of the 3 for the pixel, and remember, these are all... each pixel is in series. It's basically 12 volt across 3 LEDs, but they can be different colors. So we've got yellow, we got orange, we got red coming up, and then we'll do some pink, and we'll be done. So I'm going to let go of that. I'm going to add a power connector now, because that'll just be that much safer instead of potentially shorting out the 12-volt power supply and having to throw away another brick. So I will get that set up, and we'll be back in a moment. Okay. Let's get rid of this little piece of solder that broke off while I was doing that. We'll try this again. Feeling a little bit better about it. And voila, we have lights. Okay, let's add some red in there. Now that's all the red LEDs put in. Let's take another look at what this looks like. Hope that everything works. Okay, and if you're thinking that a couple of red LEDs on each corner are not lighting up, you're correct. That's because we've still got one more LED to put in on each corner there. That's the pink ones. Make it those. There we go. Okay. That's looking decent. Let's put it behind the diffusing material, and you can kind of see what I'm going for here. It's a sunset. Although it kind of looks like, well, yeah, I'm picking up this here. I didn't really intend to do that, but yeah, I think that looks kind of good. So now the next step is going to be to get the case and put this in a case and cut some of that diffusion material, and I'll be right back, like right now. And let's try slipping this thing in and hope it all works with the components in it. Hope that I've designed the case to line up properly with the... Yep. Oh, wow. I guess I also considered setting back the power connector there. So this is what the case is going to look like without the diffusion material. I'm sorry about that. Tripped over my own tongue. And let's see. I can plug it in. There we go. Let's put the diffusion material roughly where it's going to go. And now we have our sunset. I'm liking that. I think that worked out pretty nicely. So let's cut some material and get it in there. And we've got this. Seems to be holding. I'm not going to test it too much, but that means I can put this in here. Gotta get it turned around the right way. And on top of that, if I've done everything right, I've got a couple of screws I can put in. Like I said, attempt to put these in. They are tiny. Boy, my workspace is a mess right now. And then also the posts that you saw on the inside there, I'll put a render up so you can kind of see what the posts look like again while I'm doing this. Those are 1.9 millimeter holes. They're not threaded because that's just more complex. And the idea is that these screws then go in, and this one looks like it went in crooked. They go in and do a little bit of displacement of the material and basically thread their own hole. So there we go. Now we've got this. Now we got to turn off some lights. Let's get this thing plugged in. And after I get it plugged in, I'll turn off more lights. Let's see what this looks like. Ooh, I kind of like that. All right. Let's see if we can't change the exposure. And I can get a little more light out. Turn out a little more light. Now we're basically in the dark. And let's see if I can't get it to... I'm having a real problem with that. Maybe this camera just isn't capable of going to that low of a light. There we go. That's better. Now you have an idea what that looks like. That is nice and warm. I think the pink's a little brighter than I expected it to be. It almost looks like a flame, not a sunset. So maybe I shouldn't have put the pink in there. And maybe I should have had the red go a little bit more along the top there. Yeah, I knew that was going to screw up the exposure. But I will leave you with that. That is the finished product. I'm happy with it. Thank you so much for watching.